When a woman craves you, she begins to mirror your masculine energy without even realizing it. It's not something she consciously chooses. It happens at a level beneath language, beneath logic. Her body, her emotions, her instincts start to harmonize with who you are. This isn't manipulation, and it's certainly not mimicry. It's resonance. It's the pull of polarity, the silent dance of opposites finding alignment. When you're rooted in purpose, when your actions speak of strength and clarity, she senses it. Not just with her mind, but with her nervous system. She starts to respond almost involuntarily. You'll notice it in the way her demeanor softens in your presence, how her pace slows to match your calm, how her eyes light up when you speak, how her guard subtly lowers. That's not performance, that's alignment. That's what craving does to the feminine when it encounters grounded masculine energy, and this mirroring isn't always obvious. Sometimes it looks like her using your phrases, laughing at your timing, shifting her daily rhythm to match yours. You might think, is this just coincidence? But it isn't. It's emotional magnetism. A woman who craves you begins to move through the world in a way that reflects the impact you've had on her. Your steadiness becomes her safe space. Your focus becomes a mirror for her curiosity. Your composure allows her to express her passion without shame. You're not trying to dominate her. You're inviting her to come alive in your orbit, and she responds with an energy that mirrors yours, not out of submission, but out of a deep and ancient knowing. You see, feminine energy isn't chaotic, it's dynamic. It responds to what it feels. When you show up as clear, decisive, calm, and certain of who you are, she doesn't have to guess. She doesn't have to lead. She can finally feel, and in feeling, she starts to reflect that strength in her own way. You might notice she becomes more confident around you, not less. She becomes more radiant, more feminine, more expressive, even more sensual. That's not a mask she's putting on to please you. That's a woman stepping into her natural state because she feels the gravity of your groundedness. And here's where it gets deeper. She doesn't know she's doing it. This isn't strategy. It's not a conscious effort to impress you or get your attention. It's biological, emotional, even spiritual. Her instincts recognize something safe, something real, something powerful in you, and her being responds with warmth, curiosity, and subtle imitation. She doesn't copy you, she calibrates to you. She starts to reflect your tone, your direction, your values, not by force, but by craving. She feels drawn to what you embody. This is why your energy matters so deeply. You teach her without a word how to feel around you. You set the tone, and when you're chaotic, indecisive, or emotionally erratic, her mirroring becomes confused. She won't crave uncertainty, she'll recoil from it. But when you show up as a man who's integrated, who's emotionally anchored, who lives with quiet conviction, she feels it in her bones. She begins to lean in. She begins to mirror not just your behavior, but your emotional state. If you walk with presence, she flows with grace. If you speak with clarity, she listens with openness. If you lead with intention, she follows with devotion. This is not domination, it's co-creation, it's polarity in motion, and no, this doesn't mean she loses herself. In fact, it's the opposite. She finds a deeper version of herself in your presence. Your masculine energy doesn't suppress her, it awakens her. It invites her to express her femininity without shame, without fear, without armor, and that mirroring, that subtle reflection of your essence, it's one of the clearest signs that she craves you deeply. Not for your looks, not for your status, but for the emotional equilibrium you bring into her life, for the peace she feels in your chaos, for the trust she feels in your silence. Because when a woman truly craves a man, her body, her tone, her patterns begin to echo his without her even noticing. That's the power of presence. That's the impact of the masculine. And when she finds herself mirroring you, your steadiness, your certainty, your calm fire, it's not because she's trying to impress you. It's because something inside her feels safe, feels seen, feels stirred. She mirrors you not to manipulate, but because, on a level deeper than she can articulate, she's already chosen you. And the truth is, that kind of pull can't be faked. It can't be forced. You can't earn it with games or tactics. You become the man she craves by becoming the man who no longer needs to chase. And when she mirrors that, when her essence begins to echo yours, you'll know. Not because she tells you, but because her whole being will show you. When a woman truly craves you, her attention doesn't just wander in your direction. It locks in, not because she's trying to analyze you or figure out what you're doing next, but because something about your presence draws her in like gravity. She becomes magnetized by it. Her focus lingers a little longer. Her curiosity sharpens, the way she listens shifts, not passively, but with a kind of intent that can only come from desire. This kind of attention isn't the surface level kind that you're used to from casual encounters. It's not rooted in politeness or routine. It's deeper than that. It's the kind that shows up in her eyes, in the stillness of her body, in how she responds when you speak. She begins to tune into you, not just hearing your words, but absorbing the energy behind them. Because when a woman is craving you, presence becomes a trigger. Your presence doesn't overwhelm her, it captivates her, it arrests her thoughts, it pulls her out of her head and into the moment with you. She's not rehearsing her next move. She's there, and here's what most men miss. You don't have to perform to hold her attention. You don't need flashy stories, high status, or overcalculated charm. That kind of thing might impress someone briefly, but it never sustains real craving. The attention you're looking for, the kind that magnetizes, isn't drawn by noise. It's drawn by presence, deep, masculine, rooted presence, that rare quality of being where you are fully, not scattered, not desperate, not playing some invisible game of validation, just solid, a man anchored in his values and aware of his impact. When a woman picks up on that, everything changes. She starts noticing details about you most people miss. The tone of your voice when you talk about something that matters, the rhythm of your breathing when you're relaxed, the look in your eyes when you're lost in thought. She becomes hyper aware of your world, not because she's obsessed, but because her nervous system is pulling her toward what feels significant, what feels rare, what feels real. And what's so fascinating is that she may not even understand why she's paying attention to you so closely. She just finds herself doing it. Craving strips away control. It dissolves the internal filters. A woman who craves you doesn't study you to gain power over you. She watches you because something inside her is stirred by you. Your presence becomes a field she wants to stay within, not to possess, but to experience. And in that space, you don't have to do more. You have to be more present, more grounded, more aligned. You'll notice her texting you not out of obligation, but with enthusiasm. You'll hear it in her voice, the brightness, the quickness, the edge of anticipation. You'll feel it when she's near, the subtle shift in the atmosphere, like the world narrows to just the two of you. It's not about lust, though that may be part of it. It's about emotional gravity. You occupy space in her psyche. You cross her mind not as a fleeting thought, but as a presence she can't shake. This is the kind of attention you don't chase. You earn it by becoming someone who lives with intention, a man whose silence has weight, a man who knows how to listen, not to reply, but to understand, a man who values his time, his energy, and doesn't scatter it trying to impress anyone. When you move like that, when you embody that kind of quiet confidence, a woman feels it. And the moment she starts to crave that feeling, you're no longer just someone she's interested in, you're someone she orbits. And what's most striking is how natural it all feels when it's real. There's no push or pull, no mind games, no questions about who's more invested. Her attention comes freely, not because she's lost control, but because she's found something worth surrendering to. Something solid, something she doesn't want to escape from. That kind of presence, it doesn't need to be loud, it speaks for itself. And in the end, the clearest sign that a woman craves you isn't how often she talks about you. It's how often she listens to you, how she leans in when you speak, not out of duty, but desire, not because you demand it, but because she can't help it. And that kind of attention, it's sacred, it's not given lightly. It's a reflection of what your presence has awakened within her. And when you realize the power of that, you'll stop chasing attention from the world and become the kind of man it naturally revolves around. When a woman truly craves you, something remarkable starts to happen. She drops the mask, not because she's weak, not because she's trying to manipulate your affection, but because in your presence, something inside her says, I can finally exhale. You become the space where she no longer feels the need to perform, to posture, or to protect herself from judgment. And that shift, though subtle, speaks volumes. You see, most women live in a state of guardedness, whether they're aware of it or not. They've learned to wear armor, smiles that don't always reflect joy, confidence that sometimes hides uncertainty, detachment that masks longing, and it isn't because they're insincere. It's because the world has rarely made it safe for them to be seen in their raw, unfiltered form. Vulnerability has too often been exploited, misunderstood, or used against them, so they become skilled at holding it all together, appearing composed while silently wondering if anyone will ever understand what's behind the mask. But then a man enters the picture, not just any man, but one who carries something different, something steady, something grounded. He doesn't pressure, he doesn't probe, he doesn't demand access to her soul. Instead, he creates a calm container simply by being who he is. His consistency tells her, you don't have to be anything else here. And without knowing why, she finds herself softening. It starts in the little things. Her laughter becomes more real. Her posture relaxes. The polished version of herself begins to fade, and a more honest, unguarded version begins to emerge. She tells you things she hasn't told anyone, not because you interrogated her, but because she felt safe enough to share. She lets you see her frustration, her doubts, even her fears, without immediately dressing them up with excuses or apologies. That's not just comfort, that's craving. Craving not just the man you are, but the peace she feels in your presence. There's something sacred about a woman unraveling in front of you, not in chaos, but in trust. When her craving for you overrides her fear of being seen, the walls begin to fall. And this isn't about rescuing her or fixing her. It's not about being her therapist or her savior. It's about showing up with the kind of masculine presence that lets her know, you don't need to hide your humanity here. You offer her a mirror that doesn't distort her reflection. You hold space without shrinking away from her emotions, without making her feel too much or too complicated. What most don't realize is that dropping the mask is not a weakness. It's an act of courage. And women don't offer that kind of vulnerability to just anyone. They offer it to the man who has earned it, the man whose energy doesn't fluctuate with insecurity, the man who listens without judgment, the man who is so rooted in his own self-worth that he doesn't fear hers. She craves you not because you try to fix her, but because you allow her to feel whole in her brokenness. She begins to believe, maybe for the first time, that she doesn't need to prove anything to be worthy of presence. That's when the shift becomes undeniable. The rehearsed responses vanish, the emotional masks dissolve. She begins to be, freely, openly, imperfectly, and the more she feels safe in your gaze, the more magnetic she becomes. Not because she's trying to seduce you, but because her essence has been unchained. She laughs louder, she speaks with more passion, her eyes soften, her guard lowers, and you realize what she's showing you now. No one else gets to see. This isn't about control, it's about connection. When a woman feels safe enough to drop the mask around you, what she's saying, without words, is I trust you with the parts of me I don't show the world. That's not a signal of emotional dependence. It's a sign of deep craving, craving to be known, craving to be met, not just in body, but in soul. And the beautiful irony is this: when you stop trying to penetrate her defenses, you begin to melt them. When you stop needing access, she grants it freely, because craving doesn't need to be coerced. It reveals itself in the absence of pressure, in the presence of safety, in the quiet invitation of a man who doesn't flinch when she's at her most real. So if you ever witness a woman unravel her armor in your presence, cherish it. Understand what it means. You didn't just impress her, you impacted her. You didn't just earn her attention, you touched something deeper. You gave her space to come home to herself, and that is something no mask can ever replicate. When a woman craves you, there's a quiet transformation that takes place in the background of her behavior. Her boundaries begin to bend, not because she's lost her sense of self, and certainly not because she's submitting out of weakness, but because desire has rearranged her priorities. The structure she once held so firmly starts to loosen in your presence. And it's not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because something in her wants to make space for you. You see, people love to talk about boundaries as if they're rigid walls, fixed, immovable, invincible. But real boundaries, especially emotional ones, are more like fences that can open at the right gate. And that gate only opens when trust is present and desire is strong. A woman's craving for you doesn't erase her standards, it expands her willingness. She starts to reconsider what she thought was non-negotiable, not because she's abandoning herself, but because your presence awakens something she hadn't accounted for. This is where most men get confused. They think if a woman softens her boundaries, it's a sign they've won, that they've conquered something. But this isn't conquest, it's connection. It's not her giving up control, it's her letting go of resistance. The kind of resistance that guards against emptiness, against disappointment, against men who come with empty promises. But when you show up differently, when your consistency speaks louder than your charm, she starts to shift. That shift might look small on the surface. Maybe she's suddenly willing to stay up late talking with you when she normally values her sleep. Maybe she drives across town on a weekday just to see you for an hour. Maybe she changes her plans not because you asked her to, but because she wanted to, and it catches her off guard because she's used to holding firm. She's used to prioritizing her own structure, but craving changes the equation. Craving makes her wonder, what if I made room for this? It's important to understand that bending a boundary is not the same as breaking it. She's not compromising her core values. She's not betraying herself. She's simply letting desire influence her decisions in a way that's deeply human. You're no longer just another option on her schedule. You're something she feels pulled toward, something that reorders her day, her attention, her availability. And that desire isn't mindless, it's measured, it's felt in her body before she explains it in her head. A woman craving you becomes flexible, not out of desperation, but because something about your presence feels worth the shift. You've stirred her in a way that rationality can't contain. You've given her something to say yes to, not through pressure, but through presence, through the way you move, through the certainty you carry. Through the emotional safety you provide without needing to advertise it, and you'll notice she doesn't bend for everyone. In fact, she might be known for being firm, guarded, even cold to others, but with you there's a different softness, a different warmth, not because you've overpowered her, but because you've activated something she couldn't suppress. She starts responding from instinct, from the feminine pull toward union, not out of strategy or control. And there's no mistaking it. When she begins doing things she never thought she'd do, making exceptions she never thought she'd make, it's not a red flag, it's a revelation. But it's also sacred ground. Because when a woman bends a boundary out of desire, it's a gift, a rare one. It's her way of saying, I'm opening space for you in a place that's usually closed, not because she's trying to please you, but because something about you feels like home. Something about you has made her feel safe to stretch beyond her usual edges, to risk a little discomfort for the chance at something real. This is where your character matters most, because what you do when she opens that door will determine everything that follows. If you treat her flexibility as weakness, she'll retreat. If you exploit her openness, she'll armor up again, twice as fast. But if you meet her softness with integrity, if you hold her freedom with honor, if you treat her craving not as leverage, but as a language of connection, she'll only draw closer, because the woman who bends for you isn't surrendering her power. She's inviting you into it, and that is not a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate expression of desire, trust, and depth. And once you understand that, you'll stop seeking to break down walls and start becoming the man a woman willingly lowers them for. When a woman craves you, something begins to stir beneath the surface, something quiet but undeniable. She starts to compete, not with other women, not even with you, but with her own ego, and that is one of the clearest, most revealing signs of genuine desire. Because ego and craving don't coexist comfortably. The ego wants control, certainty, distance, but craving wants closeness. Craving demands vulnerability, and those two forces, control and surrender, can't occupy the same space for long. So, she begins to wrestle. At first, she might try to pretend it's not happening. She'll tell herself she's just curious. She'll rationalize her growing attention, explain away her emotional investment. Maybe she'll even try to keep things light on the surface, play it cool, as if she hasn't already felt the gravitational pull. But craving doesn't allow that illusion to last forever, because as much as the ego tries to protect her, there's another part of her, more honest, more instinctive, that is drawn to something in you she can't dismiss. You'll notice the tension. She hesitates before replying quickly, not because she's busy, but because she doesn't want to seem too available. She shows affection, then pulls back, trying to recalibrate, to regain the upper hand her ego says she should maintain. But the truth is, the craving has already moved in. Her ego might want to win, but her heart wants to be near you, and slowly, inevitably, that inner conflict begins to play out in the way she speaks, the way she acts, the way she treats you. This isn't manipulation, it's self-preservation. Her ego has been trained by past wounds, by cultural narratives, by the fear of being hurt. It whispers, don't let him know how much you care. Don't be the one who wants more. Don't lose your position, but desire doesn't speak that language. Desire doesn't care about pride. It doesn't negotiate with fear, it just pulls. It draws her into moments she didn't plan, into late night thoughts she can't quiet, into small decisions that reveal something bigger. She's beginning to want you in ways that challenge her self-image, and that's where the internal competition intensifies. Because the woman who craves you will often find herself caught between wanting to be seen as independent and untouchable, and needing to feel seen, felt, chosen. She'll bounce between letting you in and pushing you away, between opening up and putting the mask back on. It's not because she's confused about you. It's because she's confronting herself, the version of herself that thought she'd never feel this deeply again, the version that promised she'd never risk her heart unless the man was certain. And that's what makes this battle so human, so powerful. You're not just watching her fall for you. You're watching her confront all the defenses she built to stop this from happening. That's what craving does. It brings her to a mirror. It makes her question the very armor she once thought protected her. It makes her wonder, what if I let this in? What if I stop pretending? What if I just want him? And I'm not afraid to show it, but here's the paradox. If you chase her while she's in this battle, if you push too hard or seek constant reassurance, you strengthen her ego's grip, because the ego thrives in pressure and performance. It feeds on the need to stay above, to remain unshaken. But when you give her space to wrestle, when you remain steady as she unravels her own emotional resistance, something starts to shift. She begins to trust not just you, but herself. She realizes she doesn't have to lose her dignity to want you. She doesn't have to abandon her strength to surrender to the pull. And that's the moment everything changes. When she stops fighting herself, When she lets craving speak louder than fear, her energy transforms. The walls soften, the pride fades, not because she's given up, but because she's chosen truth over pretense. You don't have to guess anymore. You'll feel it in her tone, in her timing, in the way she finally stops hesitating and simply allows herself to care. That's not just attraction, that's transformation, and it's not something you force. It's something you earn by being a man whose presence makes the battle worth losing. Because when her craving is strong enough to outgrow her ego, you'll see it in her eyes. She's no longer trying to protect herself from you. She's trying to find the courage to be fully seen. When a woman craves you, truly craves you, something profound begins to unfold. You're no longer just someone she talks to. You become someone she lets in, and not just into her schedule or into her arms, but into places within her she's kept hidden from the world. She gives you access that no one else gets, access that isn't offered lightly and isn't granted through charm or pressure. It's the result of something deeper, something earned by your presence, your patience, your consistency. Most people know her surface. They see the curated version, the confident, composed, socially aware version of her that's been sculpted over time to survive in a world that rarely holds space for depth. But when she craves you, that facade begins to soften, and slowly she opens doors, quiet ones, ones she hasn't opened in years, if ever. You might not even realize it at first. Maybe she mentions a detail about her childhood that catches you off guard. Maybe she shares a dream, a fear, something fragile. That moment isn't random, that's access. That's her soul leaning toward yours and saying, here's something I don't give to just anyone. This access isn't about physical intimacy, though that may follow. It's emotional, it's psychological. It's spiritual. It's the kind of access that says, you're not just someone I'm interested in. You're someone I want to be real with. And for a woman, that's no small thing, because giving someone that kind of access means letting go of control. It means trusting you with the parts of her that haven't always been met with understanding. The parts that are still healing, still searching, still learning how to breathe freely. And that's the thing. She doesn't do this because you asked for it. She doesn't do it because she's trying to keep you. She does it because something in you feels safe. Something in you tells her, you'll still be here if I'm not perfect. You'll still see me if I drop the act. You won't run when it gets raw. Craving does that. It overrides her need to filter, to protect, to posture. And in doing so, it invites something rare, a connection where pretense isn't necessary. This kind of access might look like her calling you when she's overwhelmed, not to vent, but to feel your steadiness. It might be her sending a voice note in the middle of the night, just to share a passing thought she couldn't let go of. It might be the way she lets you into her routines, her rituals, her quiet spaces, the moments she usually keeps to herself. And you'll notice, the more she trusts that you're not going to misuse what she's giving you, the more she offers. But there's a responsibility that comes with this, because access doesn't mean ownership. She's not giving you her vulnerability so you can fix it or control it. She's letting you see it so she can finally be human with someone. And that's the weight of it. Her craving isn't just desire, it's a longing to be known and still accepted. Not for what she projects to the world, but for who she is when no one else is watching. You might be surprised by how different she becomes when this access is given. She may be softer, more playful, more honest. You'll see sides of her that others have never earned the right to see, and it's not because she's changing. It's because she's revealing the layers beneath the layers, the sacred places behind the mask. And if you're really paying attention, you'll realize you've stepped into something rare, a version of her that's not available to the world, only to the man she trusts with her craving. It's easy to take that access for granted, to mistake it for just chemistry or compatibility. But it's much more than that. It's a reflection of how deeply your presence has impacted her. It means she's not just intrigued by you, she's moved by you, and in a world where everyone is busy trying to appear strong, put together, and emotionally invincible, that kind of surrender is profound. So if a woman starts giving you access no one else gets, pay attention, respect it, protect it, because what you're being offered isn't just connection. It's a kind of quiet, sacred intimacy that's built not on possession, but on presence. And once you've experienced that level of closeness, you'll understand the deepest form of craving isn't loud, it's quiet, it's honest, and it's found in the moments she finally lets herself be seen, and hopes, in the silence of that offering, that you'll choose to stay,